Hey guys, it's Josh, and welcome back to the Not So Bad Bachelor Pad, your favorite podcast for learning how to balance between being a functional adult and a raging dumpster fire. And let's be honest, who here hasn't been a little bit of a dumpster fire? Joining us inside the Bachelor Pad this week is Rose. Rose is going to knock your socks off because she's a delight. We've known each other for a full 5 minutes, and I think I'm splitting at the seams. Rose, thank you so much for making time today. Welcome to the Bachelor Pad. How are you?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Joshua. I was really excited when I saw your message. I was like, this looks good. This is going to be a good one. I hope that your audience vibes as well with me as we are vibing.
You know what? This is the audience, okay? It's me, it's you. It's just like a bunch of other me's out there.
Yes, yes.
Alrighty, so the name of the show, the Not So Bad Bachelor Pad. I have to ask you, what's your current relationship status? Are you enjoying your single life? Are you committed? Are you just trying to find up from down and not getting crisscrossed? Because honestly, that's kind of where I'm at.
I am in a committed relationship. It's still pretty new, like 6 months, 7 months in. I will openly admit I have a long history of serial monogamy. There was a very short time between this relationship and my last relationship. And I tell you what, Joshua, somehow for me it's working. They do just keep getting better. I think I found myself. I think I've landed here. I've landed here. It's still pretty new, but it's definitely the best yet.
Listen, sometimes it takes a while to get some traction. And then once you hit there, it's a nice sweet spot. Hopefully, that was the last first date you had. And 6 months, that's also a weird thing for a lot of people. When you ask them, is it serious or not? Is it new or not? And they're like, yeah, it's pretty new. In 6 months, I was like, that's a half a year. For some people, that's longer than any relationship they've ever had.
That's
And
fair.
for
That's
other
fair.
people, they're like, no, that's just a blink of an eye. So it's really funny how that kind of breaks down.
My longest relationship was my last relationship, just under 2 years. Let's see. I had three other relationships that were about a year prior to that. Yeah, that's what that looks like in my life. This guy I'm dating, though, he was married for 16 years. Very different, right? And I'm actually finding a lot of gratitude in
Mhm.
like his experience with like in a long-term committed relationship in ways that are new to me, and none of the other people that I've dated have really had that experience. So yeah.
I think so much there. We're gonna unpack a bit of it, and then we're gonna keep going.
Sure, sure.
First of all, if I do math right, married for 16, you look like you're roughly so what was that like entering into a relationship with somebody who's had more experience than probably you've had at dating with marriage? Like, was that a
Yeah,
little, like,
yeah.
kinda, like, daunting at first, or were you like, "You know what? He can do 16 years. I'm probably in good hands."
Much more the latter. There is an age gap. We're 15 years apart. I'm 30, he's 45. But that's the age gap thing is pretty normal for me. My average is about 10 years. A little older than that, older than me. And honestly, Joshua, I have had the thought pretty regularly, especially over the past like 3 years,
Mhm.
including in moments when I was questioning my last relationship, of imagining that I'm like for me, just because of the journey that I've been on and what I can bring to a relationship, I might need a man who's like had some like serious like long-term
Mhm.
relationship life experience, who has maybe been married and divorced to meet me where I'm at. Not like imagining I need that, but it's definitely crossed my mind as that might be more my speed. So yeah, I feel very comforted by by him having had that experience. And there's a lot of experiences that I'm bringing to the relationship that he can't relate to at all, right? Like he got married in his I think he was 24, 23, right? So he didn't have the experience of being so like free and kind of having wild 20s like
Yeah.
I did. So yeah, it's a good balance.
That's amazing. I love that. Like, I love love so much. So anytime I find people who feel like they found their people, I just get super overjoyed because that's kind of a big deal. Not everybody
Mhm.
believes in the one, but they do believe in something genuine. And
Mm,
that's kind
mhm.
of what I think we're all searching for.
Yeah, I have been really looking for someone. I am like almost to a fault, right? Where I'm like checking myself on it, like so into personal and professional development. Okay. I'm like,
Okay,
it
yeah.
is like I'm going all the way up the mountain. Right? Like to the point where I really do, to come back to my center, have to kind of keep tabs on that, like, okay, are we still having fun, right? Are we still playing? Are we still enjoying life? But I've really been wanting someone who also has that same passion for growth that I do, and he does, and that's a big factor that really glues us together is that we get really excited about being the next best and the next best and the next best version of ourselves.
No, I love that. So that was one of the points when I was getting my coaching certification is that we talked about there are like 3 or 4 really big things that are required in order to have a sustainable relationship. And one
Mm,
of those points was you have to be with somebody who you're excited to support, whether that's emotionally, like in their business or personal endeavors, or just on some mutual interest you might have. So, professional development
mm,
obviously stays in that. And I say that just on a day to day basis is I need to be surrounded by people who aren't complacent because people who are happy just with what they have, the status quo, they're not really looking to grow, expand, or really widen their world. And for me, every day is a new day and it's a new horizon. So I just like want to keep chasing it. So I need somebody who matches that energy, has that vigor for life and business that I have.
mhm. Forgive me for my ignorance. What is your relationship status?
She's trying to put me in the hot seat, guys, and this is early on.
You don't you
We're
don't
not
have
even
to. I
halfway.
mean,
Whoa.
throw the mic back if you need to.
Listen, I'm not afraid. I was like, we just ended a relationship, so we're currently single right now. I don't think I'm ever really looking for a relationship,
Mm,
but I'm never adverse to falling into one. I like my me time, but sometimes you just meet a person who you get addicted to how they make you feel. You just happen to be going the same direction. So you're like, do you want to do this thing together? And next thing you know, it's 6 months, it's a year, it's however it's however long and kind of an item.
mhm. Yeah. Yeah, right on.
Now, a really big point, I feel like may be important to you as well, besides having a person who is kind of ambitious and has a hunger for life, is somebody who can be open and vulnerable with you. I think that's
Mhm.
a really big thing that people don't see from men, but I feel like a lot of women or just partners, one in general, is their person to feel like they can come to them and open up.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, to be soft. Not that being vulnerable is always about things that are, negative or heavy or uncomfortable, but vulnerability inherently involves some level of risk, right? Like
Mhm.
that's why it's called being vulnerable. And I think that that's really a huge gift to the people in our lives to keep showing up even when it's like I have this thing and I'm not quite sure how you're going to respond to it, but I just feel like it is for me to share, right? Whether that's because I just feel, I want to share it for me or because like I feel like it's important to the relationship even if I don't know exactly why. And that's a gift to our partners as well as the other people in our lives to show up and be real with them, right? But there's so much, I mean we could go on and on, right, about all the reasons how people have been um, taught
Mhm.
to cover themselves, right? To put up the masks, to put on layers over that raw, real part. Yeah, and so there, a lot of the inner work, right, is peeling those off and learning to be okay with whatever's there, right? And trusting that through learning to be okay and with whatever's there, through learning to love that we're finding a sense of wholeness and integration.
I hate the stigma, I just hate it that men can't be vulnerable. Being vulnerable makes you less of a man, and that's just not true. I feel like it makes you more of a man, if anything, because a man should be, like, proud in who he is and part of who you are. Sometimes it's that soft, goopy side, sometimes it's the dorky side that you don't want people to see. Sometimes it's the hard consequences of the life that we lived. All of
Mhm.
those are different facets, but they're still vulnerable moments that I think everybody should get to see. It might also help them give you the grace. You're like, everybody's always riding me. Well, it's because you don't let them in, so they don't really know you. And sometimes you
Yeah.
can tell.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, it's that classic, we're teaching people how to treat us, right? If I don't like how I'm being treated by someone, well, how have I been showing up in a way that's indicated to them that that's okay? Yeah. You up for a quick story?
Let's go.
Okay, so one of the first things that I experienced with the man that I'm currently with, that was like a huge turn on for me. Okay, Joshua, we were going on this long late night walk, and we were back. We were getting back to the end to where we had started, and I started when I'm really happy. I like to sing. I sing a lot. I had a roommate once who she was like, I can always tell when you're happy because you're
Yeah.
singing. And I started singing A Whole New World from Aladdin. And this man shed a tear, like listening to me sing. And I finished, and he was like, "That was my favorite movie as a kid." And I was just like so into it, right?
Yeah.
Like so into, that he didn't hold it back. He wasn't ashamed about any of it, and he was so in touch, not only conceptually, but like in his body, right? That he could feel what the music that I was expressing, he could feel that in his body so much that like he shed a tear, right? He had like a physiological release.
No, the power of nostalgia, next level. Like you can't beat it. And who didn't love Aladdin as a if you say you didn't, I'm kinda calling you weird. That song really does have a lot of like depth and meaning, the duality of the duet in itself, because it's not just saying that I can show you a new perspective. It's saying that I wanna create something new with
Mm.
you and creating something new, sharing a dream. It's beautiful. I don't know another word to say for it. Because, I mean, like I said, that's what we want. Despite if you're like man, woman, hetero, everything else out there, you typically want to find a person, even if it's not romantically, who you can just share moments with and just enjoy life. And that song is kind of just about that.
Mm.
Plus, I could definitely see, especially if there's like any water around or it's like a beautiful, clear night, hearing that song, probably just like looked over to or like looked away and kinda dabs it. I could see the ambiance of that moment.
It was a really lovely moment.
If I ever had a woman sing that to me, I would also feel like she would take care of me. And I think
Mm.
secretly,
Mm.
deep down, most men kinda wanna be taken care of as well. Like, we wanna be a
Mhm.
provider, but sometimes we want our person to just dote on us, show us a whole new world, sing us a
Mhm.
song. I think that's real.
Yeah, that nurturing aspect goes both ways, right? I think that's really important to recognize. I wonder sometimes, at least in some pockets of culture, if we've kind of lost sight of that.
It's one of the things that scares me about, like, some of the, like, gender role things or, like, the red pill. I was like, "That doesn't mean that you can't just be a person." You know? I was like
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I always say, like, I wanna keep my inner kid alive,
Mm,
and nobody ever bats an eye when a mom sings a song to their son or daughter, or
mm,
they have these cute moments, or they're like, "When I grow up, I wanna, like, marry my mommy or, like, protect my mommy." When
mm.
they're so adorable, they're so honest, they're so just raw and vulnerable. It's adorable, but then at some point, you're like, even though the principle hasn't changed, no, it's not acceptable anymore." That's kind of weird, you know? That's like saying when you're in school, 1 + 1 will equal 2, but when you graduate, 1 + 1, it's not 2 anymore, it's like 12. I'm like, "What?"
I love this metaphor. I'm going to remember that. I like that a lot.
Listen,
Yes.
as long as you give me credit for it, you can borrow it.
Right. Joshua Jones. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, I
Yes.
was like, "Math, it's pretty consistent over in the Bachelor pad, okay? They don't do this new
Mm,
math like
mhm.
Incredibles 2." No, I think you kinda, like, talked about it earlier, and I love asking this question because it's different for every person, but I think it's so telling about the quality or the types of relationships they're into.
Mm.
And what is the sexiest thing a man can do for you emotionally?
Okay. Like first of all, it's very possible that if you asked me this question next week, I'd give you a different answer. Okay.
Make a note, ask us again in a week.
So just disclaimer up front that I'm going to tell you the thing that, yeah, feels most resonant now. But I mean, there's a lot of things, right? There's a lot of things that I can answer. What's coming to me right now is when a man can tell, more or less how I'm feeling or what state I'm in
Mhm,
just by like feel and I say feeling, but I'm also like including, right, what they're seeing, what they're hearing in my
mhm,
tone. I love when a man is, wants to and is able to be tuned into me in that way. And so he's able to meet me like where I'm at. And not that I expect that to be the case all the time because, sometimes he will be caught up in his energies and then it's my turn, right? Like, okay, I'm going to tune into him. I'm going to be that grounding force, that sounding board for him. But yeah, I love when I can tell that a man like feels me, feels how I am, feels my state of being without me having to tell him. And that being said, I've spent many years doing a lot of work communicating how I feel, and there's still not an expectation there, but it is something that I've experienced more and more with men and women in the recent years, and something that I am capable of tuning into with another person myself.
mhm.
You can just feel, right? Like approximately how they're doing.
No, I get that, and I love some of the conversations I fall into because me and my friends or me or my colleagues are just a weird bunch. I was speaking to somebody, I think maybe a little earlier this week, end of last week. We were kinda talking about breakups, and he was like, "Yeah, I've started dating again." It was really hard because he was married for 5 years. This is, like, kinda his 2nd time really getting out there af
Mm,
post-divorce. The first time he was like, "Yeah, I don't know if this is for me," but he's like, "Nope, I kinda miss the
mm,
companionship, let me try it again." And I was like, "Hey, it's been a couple, like, weeks since we talked, like, how's dating going?" And he's like, "I've been on a couple dates, I'm seeing somebody, like, pretty regularly, but it's still too early to tell." And I was like, "Well, you seem excited." And she was like, "Yeah, I get her. It
mm,
feels almost like a phantom limb, like, I know
mm,
when she's stressed, when she's busy,
mm.
I even know if she's eating or not, like, I can just feel those things." And I was like, "What do you mean, like,
Mhm,
a phantom limb?" He was like, "Well, like." I was like, "Yeah, I know what that means," but he was like, "No, it's just I was with my wife for so long, we were married for 5 years, but we had dated for 12, so I could just
Whoa.
pick up on those things, and when I'm with her, even though she's a different person, I still get those same cues of
Mm,
there's a little something different in her demeanor. Maybe I should, like, bring her a snack, or maybe I should just be present." And I was like,
mm,
"That's such a great, like, metaphor." I've never thought about it like that, but really sometimes because we've had to practice with these other relationships that some things do feel like a phantom limb. You didn't have to tell me that if I'm going to the kitchen and I'm grabbing a drink or some water to fill up your cup and bring it out too,
mm,
or I use the bathroom, I put the seat down. Like, you shouldn't have to tell me to do that, but I do it out of consideration for you anyway, you know?
mm,
Those
mm,
things, like, yeah, sure, when you're a bachelor inside your bachelor pad, it's like, yeah, you can leave the seat up all you want. But once you entered into back into that role of being a partner, you
mm.
start, like, doing these things again. It should just kind of feel like second nature almost.
Mhm, mhm. I'm snagging a bit on the it should be almost second nature. Hopefully it's that smooth, it's that easy, right?
Mhm.
And I think there's still a lot of room for it to be learned. Depending on the relationship, a lot of nuances there, right? I guess I just want to make the point that admittedly, I have never experienced this, but I still believe it's possible. I'm like, that has to be able to be learned. I'm gonna keep believing that that's possible.
I as mu and, like, guys, you're right. I probably sounded like a hypocrite for a second, but the precursor to that is I say this, none of us are mind readers, okay? Communication is always the first and last key. However, it's the math thing all over again. 1 plus 1 will
Mm.
always equal 2.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, even if it wasn't your significant other, if your mom was staying with you, you're not leaving
right.
the like, it's a
Yes,
general thing, like, so I was like, some of these things, they're just 1 plus 1. I was
yes,
like, it doesn't matter if
yes.
it's 1 plus 1 times 2, 1 plus 1 times 3, 1 plus 1 divided by 5.
Ooh, okay, I like where we're going with this. You know
Right?
what? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that comes back to a lot of how I think about relational work, which is it starts inside, right?
Mhm.
Like someone who can enter into a relationship and be on that level of like 1 plus 1 times 47, right? And this is what it looks like because they've invested some serious time in their own introspection and their own
Mhm,
journey to be able to like have the space to be compassionate in that way, to be creative in that way, to be, I mean, just like not stressed, right?
mhm,
Like
for sure.
it's rough when people are dealing with chronic stress to even necessarily remember to do those things, right? Not that they don't like theoretically know,
Mhm.
but it's not always front of mind, yeah, neurologically, theologically. Yeah, so yeah, I love what you're saying though. What's coming to me is it's like a frequency that can be tapped into.
For sure, I do believe that energy is super important, and we know matter can't be created or destroyed.
Mm,
So when you're in, and this is what I say to all the bachelors and bachelorettes who've gone through any of our courses, is my job as a coach is to teach you not just the material, how to fall back on the knowledge that you've now gained, no matter what the look looks like. Okay. Because
mm, mhm,
if you're in a situation that happens inside and then you're in the same situation when it's outside or when it's raining, it doesn't really change the situation. It
mhm,
just changed what the situation looks like,
mhm,
you know?
mhm.
And I feel like relationships are kind of the same. You're always going to be in a relationship with a different person, or even if it's your same person, it may
They're
look
gonna
different.
change. They're gonna
Exactly.
change.
I was
Yeah,
like, we're not the
yeah.
same people today as we will be tomorrow, as we will be 5
Mhm,
years from now.
mhm,
But if you're having similar conversations, you should kinda know, like, "Okay, we've already kinda been here before. What worked? What didn't work? What am I really being asked?"
mm, mm, mhm, mhm,
'Cause and this is I think this is relatable to a lot of people. The first time you get into an argument with your partner, sometimes you're like, "Wait, where did this come from? I literally do not know." But by the 3rd time, you're like, "Wait, nope, I know what I'm really being asked here. It's not
mhm,
as linear or maybe it's not as abstract as I think. Let me try route B because I know that typically
mhm,
does better." It's kinda one of those moments, I feel like, is sure, the first couple times, like you said, it's gonna take some traction for you to get to know the person and to get back into alignment. However, after you're there, you should kinda be able to navigate a little bit better on
mhm, mhm. Yeah, yeah, totally. Anyone can who's open and receptive to learning and growing, right?
for sure.
Mhm,
That kinda, like, brings me into our next question, and I love that I'm asking this question to you because we've lived very different lives, and we have very different perspectives. I'm 6'3", and you might not be 6'3", or you could be, it's hard to tell via video.
you have about a foot on me. Yeah.
Right, so that's always my thing when I ask another guy who's also, like, 6'3" as well, or a guy, like, we have a similar experience, so it's probably not a different answer, but for you, where I'm towering over you almost, life looks a whole lot different, and I feel like we grow, we get comfortable, we start to learn when we're in a safe space,
Mm,
and
mhm,
anybody who knows me, who's been a fan of the show knows my favorite compliment is, "You make me feel safe." Because it's not even a gendered thing, I think just as a person, that's one of our most base needs is to feel
mhm,
safe, is to feel seen and comforted. So when somebody tells me that I do that for them, like, they don't have to
mm,
perform, they can just exist with me, I'm
mhm,
over the moon, I'm blushing, I might even hit one of these notes on the inside. I just love
mm.
that. Do you feel that men or some of the people that you work with want the same thing from their partners?
Yeah, 100%. That being said, Joshua, there are some men that I work with who they have felt so unsafe for so long and they have felt so unallowed to want to feel safe that they can't even identify that need, right? Until we've been working together for, varying amounts of time, right? Depending on the man. Yeah. Yeah, of course, right? Like all men have that little boy inside of them, right? Just it's like all women have that little girl inside of them. It's not like you said, we're all human. It's not
Yeah.
that complicated. But yeah, in a world where in so many different, radically different ways, we have become entrenched in this is what the man is in heterosexual relationships, or even in homosexual relationships, right? But looking at, the more masculine dominant, the more
Mhm.
feminine dominant partner. But this is what the man is supposed to do. This is what the woman is supposed to do. And which creates this constriction that really stifles, like, well, can't I just be me? Right? What if I was just me? Yeah, yeah.
Like, everybody knows the term cookie cutter, and that's what always makes me laugh about some of these ideologies or practices that so many people are subscribing to,
Mhm.
is you want them to be cookie cutter, but I'm not the same template, like, we're not cookies.
Mhm.
You can try to put a circular mold on me, there are gonna be a lot of parts lopped off.
Mm,
And those are the best bits, those are crispy bits on the outside, everybody loves those. But let's just break away from the whole template cookie cutter motto and just really worried about, what it's like dating a man, dating a woman. It's like dating a Josh and dating a Rose,
mm,
or this
mm,
Josh, because not every Josh is the same. Because trust me,
mhm,
there are some very
mm.
diabolical, toxic Joshes out there, and there are some saints. I'm somewhere in the middle, don't really know.
Yeah, I'm with you to a large degree. I do think that there is benefit in like honor each person
Mhm.
honoring their body,
Yeah.
right? So like you and I have different physiologies.
Mhm.
At some point I really want to have kids. That's going to be a shared experience between me and my partner, but it's also going to be very different in some
Exactly.
ways, right? It's going to require different things. So I hold out for that caveat of
Yeah.
like, let's work with biology.
Right, and what I mean by that is not to ignore it, but using the example of kids, like, you wanna have kids with your partner, that's a shared experience. However, if your partner has already had that experience with somebody else,
Mhm.
those
Mhm.
2 experiences could be very different
Sure, sure.
in themselves, even though it's kind of biologically a similar process, you
Mhm.
know?
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely.
So that's why I was like or like even like once you have kids, like if you have 3, they could be drastically different and like the pregnancies could be different. You're different people because
Mhm.
now you're trying to parent and do all this other stuff. Nothing's ever gonna be the same. Yeah, it's good. It's a good guidance. We all start tracing an image and then we start to like free draw. Don't get so hung up on outlining everything that you lose that artistic spark
Mm.
that's life. That's kind of the beautiful thing is
Mhm.
fumbling through learning it because that's how you get your tricks, your hacks, and some of the most memorably magical moments.
Mhm. Yeah, through that spontaneity.
But that also kind of brings me to a really great point of maybe for you, what you've seen. What's the difference between a masculine man and then a man who's
Mm.
unavailable?
Yeah, help me with how you're using that term masculine man.
Okay. So for me, like masculinity for me means somebody who is look to themselves in the mirror and can accept who they see and they whether I mean like that's not to say they're perfect, but they accept him, they're working on him and
Mhm.
they're not lashing out or trying to I don't want to use the word belittle, they're not trying to diminish others to make them seem more successful.
Yeah, yeah, he's taking responsibility for himself. He's interested in the effect that he has on others while also recognizing that keeping his cup full is pivotal to him being able to show up well, right? Yeah, I mean, it's a world of difference. Right? It's a world of difference. I want to go a couple of different directions with my answer. So, on one hand, a man who is unavailable, a lot of the men that I work with who can recognize that they have been and maybe to some degree still are unavailable to those in their lives at a more intimate personal level got there because they were trying to follow this prescribed template of what being masculine is, right? And this prescribed template is something along the lines of your needs come last. Um, you don't get to want things or have desires. It's your job to make other people happy and to show up in that way. And that kind of thinking, it turns a person, man or woman, into their own worst enemy, right? There is so much like control and rigidity there, especially at the point that the cup is empty, right? Because it's not getting refilled. He's not focusing on himself. He's no longer able to act from a place of peace, joy, gratitude. So that resentment starts to grow, that frustration starts to grow. He loses his zest for life. That inner child is, long gone. Bye. Well, or at least that's what the conscious experience seems to be, right? Inner child is really still there, but deeply buried. So a lot of the work that I do is helping men get back in touch with themselves, learn how to be present with their emotional experience, rewire those limiting beliefs around what it is that they need to be anything other than who they are, right? That they are allowed to have desires and to want things and to have a vision for themselves that gets them excited and makes like this joyous adventure, right? That yes, has challenges and yes, we experience pain and hurt, everyone does.
Mhm.
And that there can be a life where you end up being grateful for even those challenging moments because gosh, like because I gained even from those moments. Yeah, I guess now I'm kind of describing that process of taking a man who is emotionally unavailable and helping him, become that more, as you phrased it, truly masculine man. Although the framework that I work with Joshua, and I don't work with this so explicitly with my clients anymore. How I perceive humans is that the path to feeling whole, to feeling whole, to no longer like reaching outside of ourselves or being attached to something outside of ourselves in order to maintain outsourcing who we are, right? Over identifying with something outside of ourselves or relying on it for maintain a certain level of regulation, etc., is one that invites all of us to embrace both our masculinity and our femininity, regardless of our body. So a lot of the work that I do is kind of helping that integration process in my clients, which we might even say, according to the math, requires kind of healing and refining and growing both polarities, and then facilitating a more productive relationship between the two, right? Between that strength and that softness, between the structure and the free flow, between the logic and the intuition.
Before I respond to that, I'm going to let you know the biggest reason I wanted to have you on today
Mm,
is I was reading through your profile. And as I did that, to me, if you've seen The Wizard of Oz, you
mm,
know, when we're in Kansas, it's black and white. And then we get to Oz. And then this whole new world of color opens up.
mm,
And that's what I feel like you do for a lot of men or people that you work with is
mm,
you take it from this black and white binary that is Kansas and you introduce them to the color, the options, the versatility that is Oz.
mm,
And Oz is a magical place where animals talk or 10 men can come to life. Magic really does exist. And what I mean by that is you're not rigid, you're not restricted. You have the ability to kind of literally build the best version of yourself, put some whimsy in there, put a little bit of depression because we all get a little, we feel those things, a little tragedy and a massive lollipop that you found from one of the lollipop guild together and you can just get all of that here whereas before everything was so yes no black white in nature.
I'm so touched. I'm super touched by that compliment. Thank you so much. I see that I do that for people, I hope I fucking do that for people. I want to do that for as many people as possible through being me, through no other means than just being myself.
We talked about this before we started rolling is genuine connection will always in my opinion be the best tool to reach out and bridge that gap between this sounds nice and I can do it too. I know people who've been listening feel that they can do it too because this isn't an act for you. This is something that's near and dear to your heart. You've also, because you're a person who's lived a life. I mean, like I said, we're about the same age. So people think, well, you're so young, you're what behind the ears that we haven't gone through much. But you've had a full fucking life. And some of those moments were really high, beautiful peaks, but you've also had a valley or two. You've also been a bit of a dumpster fire at times. You just felt like you couldn't get it together, but people can't take their eyes off of you. So the fact that you're able to look that in the mirror and become who you are today shows everybody else who's been listening that shit, I can go from dumpster fire to inspiration.
Yeah, it's not usually the majority, but I see a lot of comments right on content that I post with, you know, it's just right, it's one excuse after another, man. Why not me? I'm not
Mhm.
qualified to do that. I'm not qualified to be happy. I'm not qualified to be healthy. Um I don't deserve I can't do it's too hard, but and there are for real sometimes, Joshua, when I just want to like shove a video of my life in these people's faces and be like I get it. I get it and you can. Like I'm not an average 30-year-old. I can go into my story. We
I
also don't
mean,
have to.
no, that's part of the thing is we have fun, but we're also like, we don't shy away from real, honest conversation. So obviously, you didn't just wake up one day and was like, you know what? I think I can help men out there, just people out there. There was some lore. So now that we've set the
Nice.
scene, we know how the universe is. Let's get into the lore, okay? What the
Okay.
lore that is Rose. Take us there. Take us through some of those big moments that really kind of inspired you to start working.
So just for some context, right? I grew up in the country, like pretty sheltered. Super sheltered probably, but like I still to me I'm like, I was pretty sheltered. Like happy, healthy kid. Always a thinker though. Like I feel like one reason that I'm really good at what I do is because I have always been much more in touch with my logical linear brain. Wrong side. Than with my like free flow, especially when I was younger. Always got along much better with guys than with girls, but was pretty like run of the mill life. And shortly after I turned 15, very suddenly, seemingly with no trigger, no catalyst, could put a lot of labels here, right? But psychosomatic illness, bad autoimmune disease, gut issues, migraines, panic attacks, that quickly spiraled into depression, and very quickly all at once. And this was very far outside my realm of normal conventional route. Started seeing a doctor, got on some meds. They usually start with Zoloft, other classical SSRIs. Started seeing a therapist. By the next year, junior year of high school, I attempted suicide for the first time. I had a lot of self-harm, cutting, burning before that. Took a semester off of school just because, at least then, right, to my mind, I couldn't. And gratefully, I had parents that they were there for me. They didn't really know what to do to really help the root cause of the situation, but they did the best that they could. And it kept me alive. It
Mhm.
kept me alive long enough to some years later start finding some routes that did really help me heal. But I spent the next 8 years, 15 to 23, in and out of, I was in doctor's offices every week, every other week, in and out of the hospital multiple times a year, every year, about 20 inpatient hospitalizations during that time, 2 stints in long term rehab, 3 and 5 weeks, and over 48 medications during that time, most of them psych meds.
Yeah, you don't hear that resume maybe before 40 sometimes, but that's like, I'm not gonna say it's amazing, but that's just the nature of life is nobody really has the same path. No journey
Mhm.
is the same. So what you just described, it may take some people decades to have gotten there, but you did it in under 2.
That 8 years was really the brunt of it. I spent the last couple of those years going to Narcotics Anonymous meetings, having been diagnosed with a variety of substance abuse disorders. In retrospect, I wouldn't necessarily agree with that, but I will tell you, I'm so glad that the doctors said that and that I followed their guidance, because that 12-step program was the first place that I sat around with people who were willing to be like really real with me and who wanted me to be really real with them. And that became a significant turning point in my journey. Yeah, and over that last couple of years and then through some really pivotal experiences around 22, 23, 24, I started experiencing these breakthroughs that were very rapid, very effective, not at all like what I had experienced with conventional medicine, that really opened my eyes to this world of, oh no, like you can heal your life. Like you can actually learn to experience a very different life. Heal, not live a life without moments of those dark feelings, right? But change my baseline physiology and emotionality and mentality to be one that is being in love with life. And like what I'm so passionate about doing for clients, creating a life that I'm actually like fucking excited about.
No, that's huge, and what I was saying before is not everybody is lucky enough to get to a point where they can learn to love life again. Some people just get stuck in the struggle or they just feel like they're in an endless loop over and over again, and some people thinks it's just easier not to feel anything than to feel everything, which that's real because sometimes I
It is. It is in a lot of ways way easier to not feel anything. But there's always a trade-off, right? There's always like a pro and a con. So it's like, what are you losing out on because you're unwilling to feel those emotions? Or for those of us like me, I was a nun. I was all over the place. I was the quintessential dumpster fire. What do I create a structure and a vision and a way of being that kind of allows me to channel that chaos in a way that is, purposeful and meaningful. I feel like it's valuable also to mention as part of my story that maybe surprisingly after the most, I'm going to use the word entropy now. So after the period of, after those 8 years with the most, where it was lots of entropy, entropy being, seeming like chaos, but there's actually no like underlying organization or purpose or reason to it, right? Chaos seems like that superficially, but if you watch it long enough, it does actually make sense. Yeah, there is an order to it. I spent 4 years on and off, about 2 years total during that time working in sex work. And that was what got me just a front row seat of, the very vulnerable male psyche, which was this like crash course in just for me, like as an individual, right, as a woman, in getting to learn a side of men that I had very little exposure to. I had some degree of exposure, especially through Narcotics Anonymous. I had gotten a little bit more exposure to men who were willing to be open about their feelings. But it's a whole nother kind of vulnerability when you're in a sexual setting with someone, right? When some clothes are off, you're, partially or totally naked with someone, right? Like people talk. People bare their souls to you.
Nowhere to hide.
No. And that can be a very healing experience. It can be. And I heard like the same three stories, right? The same three general stories, obviously with so much difference in detail, right? But these same general outline stories from man after man after man, that all kind of oriented around I don't feel safe to share, to open up, to be myself in my life, or I don't feel safe with the partner that I have to do that, or I don't even know how to create a relationship, how to pursue a relationship, bring a relationship into my life that would look like that. That idea is so foreign to me, right? And over time, as I became less, as I was just enjoying the sexual relationship component of that work less and less, and as I grew this like deep well of compassion for the stories that I was hearing, and coming with the personal background that I had and the tools that I was using to change my life. And then, just also, lots of things that I was studying, whether through like formal or very informal education. I knew that I had a toolkit that would be valuable to share with these men. I did my best to do that while in sex work, to share, to incorporate tantric principles, to make it a more conscious, intentional experience. And ultimately, as long as I was engaging, as long as I was in the sex work field, it seemed like that was always going to be the focal point, even as much as I wanted the focal point to be healing. Ultimately, at the end of the day, these men were reaching out to me, were coming to me to get a sexual need met. That was their primary intention. So, mostly through listening to myself and letting go of what was no longer feeling like magnetic to me, but also following the pull towards, well, let me make that my primary, let me make the thing that I want to be offering, right? This ability, like, you can heal your life, you can change your life too. I've done it. Let me show you. Let me show you how. That was what, yeah, I took that leap. I set that boundary and created a practice that was leaving sex work behind, but bringing like everything else about what I had been offering there with me, creating what is, to my perspective, a pretty original practice, especially just with the experience that I bring.
Obviously, like I said, the combination that you bring, if it's been brought before, I've not heard it, is somewhere down on page 55, not front. But I really think that does like make a difference. It takes a special type of person, A, to do that, but B, so many people would burn down their whole life, create a new identity, and start over
Mhm.
before admitting that they need help or that they had these big feelings. For those people who are like experiencing that right now, they're like peeking over the bush at
Mhm.
emotional stability, availability, just feelings in general. What would you say to them?
Come back to your breath. Your breath is your best friend, and it is a lot easier to be friends with your emotions and your mind when your body is getting what it needs. It's so cliche, right? Like take a deep breath. There's so many things I could say there, but if you want a real present moment solution to like get yourself some relief, start, okay? Because most of us are walking around breathing super shallow, not using the bottom third of our lungs, okay? Okay? So start with a deep, deep exhale where you are literally using your abs to push the air out of your lungs. I promise you, if you think you have a problem breathing in deeply, start with that, squeeze it all out, and you will very naturally take a deep breath in. Okay? And look, there is nothing like the feeling of your body being flooded by the oxygen and the nutrients that it needs.
One of the best highs that I've ever experienced. There's no better way to describe it besides you just feel everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And in a way where feeling everything maybe doesn't feel as bad, right? Maybe I mean, this is one of the biggest things that I talk about because I have a huge audience online, as well as the men that I work with one on one who consider themselves very sensitive. I would place myself lightly in that category too. I used to really identify with that, and at first it was this, like how whenever someone gives us a label that describes our identity, we're like, oh my god, that's me, and
Yeah,
now I'm
yeah,
like so understood, right? Okay, that'll probably last you for some time, but like when it's time to let that go, let it go. Okay. Sensitivity though, in the uncomfortable way, in the way that feels limiting, can be shifted and transmuted into this potential for like fucking magic, right? Like to be able to be sensitive to other people's emotions, to be able to have premonitions that you don't even know how you had, but you do have them because you are sensitive, to be able to tune in to the energy of the room and lead better because you can feel that energy in the room, right? Like that sensitivity is a superpower waiting to be cultivated. And yeah, breath is one of the fundamental keys to shifting from that sensitivity feeling like it's kicking your ass to you being like, hey, get in line. You can hang out here, but on my terms.
for sure. Breath work is one of the best and biggest investments that I've ever done. It really did show me a whole new world, no pun intended. But it's real. But you said something in that I just want to kind of like delve into for a quick moment. Sensitivity. A lot of women, especially, say they want a man who's sensitive, who's vulnerable, who's emotionally intelligent. And then they experience that and they're like, I kind of have the ick now.
Uh-huh.
Now, like, ladies, I love you. I'm here for you. However, you do it. I've never heard a man say, "She was just so emotional. I got the." Okay, let me I'll not lie right there. But I've never really I've never had a group of men say, "You know what? They were just open and honest with me. They cried. They showed their feelings or were, like, silly with me. Ew, I have the ick." Like, done. I've never had that happen. However, I've been in the conversation, I've had it happen to me, and I've definitely worked with women who have. Do women really want an emotionally available, intelligent, vulnerable man, or do they just want somebody who's just not a dick?
Ooh. Ooh, yeah. I mean, how superficial or deep of a woman are we talking about? I mean, Joshua, you want my real answer to that? And this
Have I ever asked you to
obviously.
lie?
Yeah,
Come
right.
on.
You're right. And
What are
this
we doing?
circles back around really nicely to like earlier in the conversation. I feel like yes, women do genuinely yearn for that, for those sensitive parts of themselves to be met by a man. I think a lot of women have yet to catch up that, like, hey, if you want a man to embrace his soft side, his emotionality, his femininity, right? If we want to use that word, maybe you should work on shoring up your masculinity. Maybe you should work on shoring up your ability to hold space for him, right? When he's being open with you. Maybe you should work on your ability to hold yourself so that you actually have those tools so that you can be available for him. Often, but not always. I mean, there's definitely another side of this that we can delve into another time. The crowd that this echo that you're talking about is coming from, right? Where, it's like, oh, I want a sensitive man, but then like, ew, I don't want that. Is women who are working on this unilateral is the word that's coming to mind. I'm not quite sure if that's right, but they're like expecting this balance in their partner, but they're not actually showing up with that same level of inner polarity and inner balance. My
That's
opinion.
no, that's your opinion. I'll take two of them because you're right. It's all about balance. It's all about duality. That was our word last year. We loved it a lot. And there's nothing wrong with a woman who steps into her masculinity. If anything, let me know in the comments if I'm wrong, if I told a lie. But if anything, men actually kind of like it when a woman bosses up, when a woman has boundaries and
Mm-hmm.
can be definitive in her life.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of respect you more because hate saying this, but sometimes we just do shit just to see if we can do it. And it's unfortunate that we do that in our relationships because everybody always likes to see how much rope they can get before they get in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you're not with somebody who will be like, we're not doing this, no thank you, no ham, no man with turkey, they'll get a mile and a half away. And then the result of that is the woman may not have been treated as best as she should.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate to
Mm-hmm.
see that, as somebody with sisters and nieces and mother. However, you got to advocate for yourself a little bit. So I was like, I got to put the blame on both people. I was like, hey,
Mm-hmm.
my girly pops, you can do it. I believe in you. Say no sometimes. Even if you really want to do it, just say no. And then 30 seconds later, be like, you know what? I decide now, yes. And I guarantee that'll shift his perspective because, like we said, just showing that no, like the masculinity, just bringing that in. And there are other ways you can do that. Masculinity isn't just saying no or being
Mm-hmm.
dominant. There are different aspects to it, but just
I
showing
love
him,
I,
go
I
ahead.
I love the word definitive that you use. There is this narrative these days that is like the man is the leader. No, let him lead you. And I'm just like, okay, like, I appreciate I appreciate the play of like, but then it's like, okay, there are different ways of leading and there are different ways of receiving instruction. Okay, but even if we just want to stay at that more superficial level, I appreciate the masculine leading and the feminine following. Another great way to look at that is our minds lead and our bodies follow. What we think and how we believe is what our body is going to respond to. But why the fuck would you want to be in a relationship with someone who has no ability to lead themselves? And why the fuck would you want to be in a relationship with someone who has control over what direction that you go with your life? I don't I
It
I
just don't make no
I'm
sense. I get it.
skeptical.
Yeah.
I'm skeptical that that's actually going to create a genuinely fulfilling relationship. But again, maybe some people who are hanging out on I'm just going to say in my perspective, the only way I can fathom that that is a fulfilling relationship is you're hanging out on a more superficial, less integrated level and you found something that will work for you for this lifetime.
To that point, we've talked about it and they're just not my type of people, but not everybody's a shepherd. Some people are sheep,
Mm. Mm.
like that goes both ways.
Oh.
I was like, sometimes some men just prefer somebody to like
Mm.
tell them what to do.
Mm.
Yes, mother, yes, mommy, whatever you say, dear. And some women are like, babe, whatever you say, your wish is my command. I don't understand those people. I am not one of those people. I don't want to be, but hey, you like it. I love it.
I mean, I get it, I get it in the bedroom. I get play like that, but as a baseline,
Listen, I was like, that's why I enjoy being a switch, okay? Every once in a while, you gotta switch it up, otherwise your butt will get sore. I mean, some people might like that. But no, it's so true. You gotta switch it up. You gotta embrace both parts of who you are. Every yin has a yang, every light needs darkness in order to be
Mhm.
complete. If you guys are listening, you gotta embrace that. I'm not telling you that because it's your life. Like, hey, if you're okay being the sheep or being a shepherd with no flock, that's fine. However, if I'm leading somebody, I at least 1 or 2 behind me. And if I'm being led, I need somebody who can take guidance. Who's like, "Hey,
Mhm.
should I take a left or right on the
Yes.
cliff?" I don't wanna end up in Timbuk freaking 2. Yes.
Yes.
Now, before we get out of here, where can we find you at, Rose? Because I know there's at least a certain subsection of the Not So Bad fam who definitely they were rocking out today with you, with your energy, with your story. So I want them to be able to connect with you. Where can we do that at?
Yeah, so my website is naturallyrosie.me. It's ROSEY, so my name Rose with a Y on the end, my nickname, like we were talking about before the show started, Joshua, naturallyrosie.me. And then my handle on almost all social medias is at naturallyrosie. I didn't snag that one on TikTok soon enough. It's naturally.rosie, but I'm sure it'll come up if you search anything in that realm. I'm on Substack if you're a fan of longer form writing or podcasts. You can check me out on Substack and on all the major streaming platforms, the Naturally Rosie podcast. Yeah, most of what I'm doing right now is still one-on-one coaching. This summer, though, I'm launching the 2.0 version of a weekly group. So it'll be like a monthly membership, super low cost. The point is to to make it a really easy, barrier to entry. So if you're interested in, just dipping your toe in, you can join this weekly call. We'll dive into some stuff there. Yeah, and if you're interested in working with me one on one, you can find out more information on my website.
Beautiful. Guys, I want you to send this to any man that you know in your life who just feels like they're always holding it together and afraid if they feel one thing that everything might just come crumbling down. Or if you saw yourself in any part of this conversation, my story, Rose's story, the combination of the two, maybe this is your sign that, hey, maybe I can hit that DM button. Maybe I can follow. And if you're not ready to have a one on one, just keep being a part of our content, our conversations, maybe joining the 2.0 group that she has starting in June. And then make sure you subscribe, you like, you share this. That way it comes up across your feed and we can reach a broader audience. That way you're not alone and you can find your people. But
Mhm.
until that happens, make sure that you tune in next week for an all new episode of the Not So Bad Bachelor Pad. And I will see all you amazing bachelors, bachelorettes, and partnered people next week. See you guys.